Oh, is it working? Can you guys hear me? So I see 12 people are waiting to watch. I don't know if it's coming through okay with the mic. So if you can chat down below or thumbs up or something to let me know you can hear me. We'll get started as soon as I know anybody can actually hear. Okay. Thank you, Michael. Yeah, so really my wife was strongly against this, for the record. She said I should just let it go, which normally I would just let it go. But kind of, I was kind of pissed, quite frankly, with the way Michael treated me on the way out. I resigned, but honestly, there was a couple of sticking points that were going on towards the end that sort of forced resignation, I guess you would say. There was something a couple of months ago. I sort of knew that Michael was setting me up to maybe take the fall for things, and with his incredible respect, let's say, of his boss, Charlene, which that's all well and good. Um, but he started to get a little antsy as her visit was coming closer. And soon before everything went down, or actually, Jessica from Fiesta Key left the company. And maybe that made him even more antsy. I don't know. But I won't get into all the little minutia details, but essentially there were things over the last year that, or actually over 2 years, we as a maintenance team have been doing more than expected. And a lot of that is my fault. I mean, I really thought that, the more stuff we could fix, whether corporate liked it or not, the more stuff we could fix, the better it would make everything. And it would help everybody out, save company money, and frankly, it could help me get ahead as well. That's just the reality of life. But as it started getting more clear that he would, I think, throw me under the bus, I started covering my ass a lot more and started doing more purchase orders to make vendors do work. So to start sort of following the rules a lot more closely. And at one point, about a month and a half ago, well, it's probably 2 months ago now, the marina had yet another issue. And I finally said that there was nothing that the maintenance team could do anymore within the rules. Sorry, my dog's freaking out. Mo. Really it was beyond our skill set at that point. Not being able to weld, not being able to get in the water, to dive, to do any repairs like that. So I sent an email essentially to everybody, to corporate, to Michael, to asset management, who's working on building the new marina. And the email essentially said, we can't do anything else. So you've got to decide if you want to cut some docks off, if you want to, pay real money and have some big contractors come in and fix it for the summer season. And, I got no response. Shocking. So soon after, I started, putting through purchase orders to have air conditioning vendors do all the work that we're not allowed to do, have electricians do all the work we're not allowed to do. And all of a sudden, I get a final written warning, which was my first warning of any kind. And 3 weeks before, I had been complimented by corporate for helping solve this long ongoing permit issue with the county that we finally got resolved, which we think was holding up a lot of the improvements for the park. So finally got that resolved, and it was definitely a team effort, but not management at the park. It was asset management. We're meeting with contractors, we're meeting with county officials, what have you, and we got it solved anyway. So that all got done, and then not 2 weeks later, I get a letter that I'm neglecting my duties. And one thing that was specifically mentioned, and I know you guys want to hear about the future of the park as far as I know it, but just giving a little backstory for why I did this. I feel a little bit like a dick for doing it, but I would have let it go had he not treated me like a shit on my way out, which really just ticked me off, and I was just over it. So anyway, moving on, we got that fixed, and all of a sudden, something that I brought up 6 months ago, Michael wanted the bathhouses repainted inside, and I made it clear that repainting plastic stalls wasn't going to do anything. The paint would just end up peeling away again, and he really needed to put in to rebuild the bathroom completely. Like, none of the bathhouses, I don't know if any of you really noticed, but none of the bathhouses have any venting, right? So we put in venting, the maintenance team put in some bath vents because the moisture was so bad that it was just destroying everything. But as far as paint goes, the bath stalls need to be replaced. But that's not something maintenance is allowed to do. That's a capital improvement to the project, to the property. So that has to, only Michael can do CapEx projects. He's the only one that can enter them. I told him this months ago. Well, in my neglecting my duties letter, apparently my not dealing with the bathhouses was the main reason that I was being warned to get on track. I don't know. And there was another stupid thing about a little Hobie Cat sailboat, but whatever. So that's kind of past. I just got really fed up with Michael taking credit for all the good and throwing everybody else under the bus for all the bad. So it was just time in my mind to set my record straight, close my chapter, move on. I'm in a better place now anyway, but I miss the people that work at Sunshine Key are awesome. And I really think it's like just such a great team, and that killed me leaving. Just great crew. Everyone really cares, and it's tough to see when management doesn't, and I guess I was management, quote unquote, but kind of on the ground workers that get things done are seen as disposable to some extent because we get a great rent deal to stay at Sunshine Key, so whatever. As far as the future of the park, so some of you might know, but I had been in talks for a little bit with asset management to maybe go to work for them to help the project. The good news for everybody who's still going to Sunshine Key and still lives there is they do in fact plan on spending quite a bit of money on the park over the next couple of years, right? So they're gonna redo the entrance. They're already getting ready to sign checks and getting firm bids to redo the whole entry area, the gatehouse. They are talking about, and they were getting designs to redo the rec room, and it was kind of nebulous as far as whether or not they were going to keep the same exact footprint, to make things easy permitting wise, but go higher and get rid of the old cafe space that was in the back where the restaurant used to be and include that in the rec hall. And with taller ceilings, it would make it a lot more usable space for bingo, for events, what have you. So that would all be really good for the park. The one thing that's a little iffy is, so the marina, they have they and I know it's kind of been an ongoing. Sure, they're going to build a marina, and this goes back to Michael's food truck that is supposed to be there last November, and about 2 months ago, I saw something weird in the permitting that there was nothing, no permits had been issued. They had been applied for, but they were still awaiting some information. And I asked about it, and Michael did call right away. He called the guy who's building the food truck and what have you. And now this is something that was supposed to be in November, and every month since we were supposed to get this food truck. And as of like a month ago, the owner of it said, "Okay, I guess I'll start building it again." So clearly not 2 weeks away. And I just it's little things like that to save face and kind of be the good guy and make everyone happy every time he's around that are annoying when the people behind the scenes are constantly having to be the bad guy, and that gets old pretty damn quick. So, anywho, the marina, they are on like the last stretch to rebuild the marina. It's waiting on a permit from, or a sign off, I guess, from the fire marshal for fire suppression. However, from the projects I've mentioned, you may notice a theme is that all the projects that they have agreed to spend money on are all projects that are multi-purpose. As far as whatever happens with the property, they are still going to need a rec hall. They're still going to need a better entrance. Think Sun Outdoors. So that was all kind of speculative, like, oh, maybe they'll do this, maybe they'll do that, and everyone knows that it's a business. They're going to try to get money any way they can. But the end result is that they kind of in the last hour changed the plans and the designs, which I didn't see the final designs. I only heard that they are doing the plans in such a way that will allow for boat lifts for houses. So that's kind of an interesting wrinkle. So if you're an annual, or a seasonal, don't give that up, as long as you possibly can before they try to turn this into something else, which it's a corporation. They're always going to try to get more money somehow. But anyway, going back, just a couple of little things, and I'm not going to try to beat it up too much. And obviously it's sour grapes, right? I'm gone. So the winners always write the history books. So, who knows what they'll say after the fact. But things like the food truck are just, those are facts. I mean, there's no way to dispute that. You can't blame it on somebody else. You were just full of shit. You just, somebody is just blowing smoke just to make people smile. The other one is if the dancers are if the dancers or Ernie are watching by chance, the pulling in versus backing in, kind of funny story. This will be my swan song, I guess. But about 2 years ago, Michael was new, I was new, and Michael's new to RVing. Most of you know that. He was from a hotel background, which he's managed some impressive properties, and that's pretty awesome. The difference is he didn't really know anything about RVs. So when the whole debate came up a couple of years ago about people wanting to, in Class A's, wanting to be able to pull in straight, they, I think the standard line was that it's just a corporate rule. Well, there was a meeting at that time with all the employees that were working that day. And Michael did want to hear everybody's thoughts. What do we think? What should be allowed? So clearly it wasn't a firm corporate rule. And Ginger, most of you remember Ginger. So Ginger and I both were the only ones that owned Class A's at the time. So we both said, well, if I was in a waterfront site, I'd want to pull in so I could see the ocean right out my front window. and everyone else, Amanda, Joseph, I don't know who else was there at the time, but they had fifth wheels, and they argued that they didn't want to be forced into a Jack and Jill that they didn't know about or didn't plan for, and I get that as well, honestly. So we being Ginger and I didn't feel strongly enough about it, that you'd piss off everybody else in the room, but we said our piece, and in the end, Michael decided that they wouldn't allow pulling in. And the only reason I bring this up is because a year and a half or 2 years later, when the fight, maybe it was a year later, when the fight came up again, and numerous people were complaining, Michael portrayed it as he had fought with corporate for those people to get them the right to pull in. It was his decision the whole friggin' time. So, just take everything with a grain of salt. And I don't know. That's kind of my sour grapes version of what's going on. I don't know if anybody has any questions. Go through my notes. The other thing that I didn't mention, which is kind of an idea that corporate mentioned, but who knows if it'll actually happen or not. But the half of the property. So I don't know if anybody knows how Rogos work. So Marathon County, Francis, thank you very much. I heard he's very cool, and he can play guitar. So in Marathon County, to control building, they give out Rogos, and I don't know exactly how it works, but a Rogo is like a residential occupancy permit. So a property, a lot of land will have a certain amount of resident properties that are allowed to be built on there. Well, the biggest value to Sunshine Key is that Sunshine Key has like 320 or 360 Rogos, right? And those are worth like a couple $100,000 a piece, because each Rogo can be, I think it's a 2-bedroom house. So the one idea that's been floated out there was that they could take half of the property and sell it to a hotel and make it like a boutique hotel, so 100 rooms, so they wouldn't use up all their Rogos, but they could essentially cash out on a big chunk of those Rogos, which, from a business standpoint is pretty damn smart. But if you're a Thousand Trails member, and like I paid for a Thousand Trails membership, a lot of the people who are there for the winter season pay a fortune to be there, and I get it. It's an awesome place to be, and you pay a lot of money to be there. Some of us paid, $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 to buy this membership where we can go and stay there for a couple of weeks at a time. And what happens at the premium properties like Fiesta Key and Sunshine Key is they allocate like 10 spots for Thousand Trails members at a time. And I will give Michael his credit that when the park is empty or down on occupancy, which has been quite a bit lately, they will open it up so that more than just the 10,000 Trails members can come. You might as well have somebody in the spot, right? But in a world in which they sell half of the property and possibly build houses and waterfront lots, then all of a sudden that becomes a lot harder to get a spot. And many people are sold these memberships based on being able to get into these awesome places, right? That's the only, I wanted to go to the Keys. That was my dream, to live in the Keys. So yeah, Chris, 10 spots. And sometimes it's like 12, so Encore, go deeper. Encore, or ELS, Equity Lifestyle Properties, publicly traded company, started by Sam Zell, genius, whatever. So They own, I think, 180 campgrounds, and they're starting to buy a ton of marinas too. But the 180 campgrounds, there are a, I honestly, I just don't know the numbers, but let's say that there's 75 that are just thousand trails, right? Normal people can't go without a membership. You can't go and stay in Thousand Trails Orlando by Disney World, and you can't just pay like a regular campground and go stay in it. It's only for members. Well, then there's these premium parks like Sunshine Key where people will pay $200-300 a night to stay there, but they'll just pull out a few spots because they sold these memberships, right? So contractually, legally, if they don't allow the Thousand Trails people in there, then they're going to be facing lawsuits because, that's how you sold your memberships, is saying, oh, you have access to these 180 amazing places. So that's kind of what happens is people get, and if any of you watch the Facebook pages, I'm sure you do, because you probably saw, that's probably how you found this video. But that's the complaint. You always see people will be like, "Oh my God, I'm at Fiesta Key, and or my friend can't get a reservation at Fiesta Key, but I'm here and I see 30 spots that are empty next to me." That's because they're just going to hold them there until they can get somebody to pay 200. They don't care about the people who paid 15 grand to buy their adventure membership. So just, I don't know. I loved my membership. Not to backpedal, but we lived for 2 years traveling the country and we got every penny out of our membership. It was like the best way to travel the country. Honestly, it was great. Just be honest about it. I mean, you're not going to be able to go to Sunshine Key anytime you want. You're never going to go to Fiesta Key, during the winter at some Christmas, it's just not going to happen. So just be realistic. But I don't know. That's it. I had my got my 2 cents. Just wanted to let everyone know why I left, whether you care or not. It's whatever. Makes me feel better, and hopefully you learned a little something. And if you have any questions, you can also put them in the comments later. I'll keep checking this feed after once I stop the live stream, it'll turn into like just a regular YouTube video, and then it'll have comments under it. So if you have anything, I will answer it to the best of my ability. So hope y'all have a good night, and cheers.